Hello and welcome to today's session. My name is Ken Moraguri. I'm a trainer with the Kenya Airlift program. So today we'll be looking at an important aspect of GMAT preparation. So we will be gauging between quality and quantity, which is more important, so that you can know how to prepare for GMAT more effectively. So as we all know, GMAT preparation strategies vary widely. So you'll rarely find two people preparing for GMAT the same. So these variations can result from the length of study, so that is how long someone studies for, the intensity of the study, the amount of materials that this student uses, the approach to the questions, and the approach to the overall preparation of the GMAT. Then if someone opts for training or not. So we'll be diving into these and seeing which are the best practices that you should use and how to make the decision on any of these factors of your GMAT preparation. So we begin here. How much you do doesn't matter as much as how you do it. So, and the second one is practice makes perfect. So of course, practice means quantity. So the more you practice, the better you get at whatever you're practicing. So the thing is, if you practice a bad strategy or a bad question approach, you make that bad approach perfect. So you eventually get worse at solving that specific question. But if you use a good question approach, say, or a good preparation strategy, the more you do it, the better you'll become. So it's a double-edged sword, such that you have to do it right first and then do it many times so that you get perfect at it. So these will be what we'll be demonstrating through today's session. Okay, so first of all, we'll begin with length of study. So we find that the length of study for GMAT, it varies from a few weeks to several months. This is due to many factors. Probably the major factor in this is prior experience with GMAT. So, and you'll find even those who haven't interacted with GMAT can actually use only a few weeks and pass. But now this requires an intensity that is way more than the person who's studying for several months. So of course, in choosing your length of study, you should consider all factors and a reasonable timeline. So this means that, of course, if you are doing full-time study, you have the option of studying for less period total. And if you are juggling between GMAT and other stuff, say family, or you are in school, or you are working, you of course have to set a reasonable timeline, not 1 or 2 weeks, just a timeline that works for you. Then consistency is key. This means try to make a timetable that will have you studying at least a period of time per day. So make sure every day you at least go through something GMAT related. It's better, say, to study for 2 hours daily than to study 4 hours for 3 days. So that consistency keeps the momentum running. Then if you go 2 weeks without revisiting a concept that you learned, you'll end up forgetting. So the longer you study, the more often, or you will have to go through the materials that you already went through over and over, so that you do not forget. Otherwise, you'll find that the things you studied before, you end up forgetting as you continue with your studies. And then the intensity of study. So this is how long per session or day you study. So do you study, say, an hour per day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, and so on? And if your sessions are 3 hours, maybe do you study for one session a day, or do you study 2 sessions a day? Do you maybe study for 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening? So this is the intensity of study. So these will depend on several factors. First, concentration span. So for an adult, this ranges between 30 minutes and maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes. And this means that if you go past your concentration span, you'll probably end up not understanding the concepts as well as you would. So you probably need to time yourself and take breaks. Then if you're continuing the session, go back to your session. Then time availability, of course. So these will probably be out of your control. So you just use the time that you have and integrate GMAT into your schedule. Then the desired length of study. So if you intend to study for very few weeks, this means that the intensity of the study will have to be much, much larger. So instead of studying 2 hours a day, you'll probably have to study like 6 hours, 7 hours a day. So if you have to do that, please make sure that you have breaks in between, because there is no one who has a concentration span of 8 hours. You'll end up being productive the first 1 or 2 hours, then the rest, your capacity to grasp these concepts diminishes. Then there is amount of materials consumed. So this is where the quality versus quantity also applies. So you do not have to use all the materials out there. In fact, it's impossible to consume all the GMAT prep materials out there. So when you're starting your studies, you just have to sample some materials, and then you find those that fit your style. And once you do these, now stick to those materials. Then try different types of materials or delivery of content. So you can use videos or books or audiobooks, or if training is your way, you can also use that. Then ensure quality and relevance. Some of the materials out there, they are not really relevant, so you have to kind of choose and pick what materials you use to ensure that they are of the right quality to help you get the GMAT score that you desire. And then know concepts to cover beforehand to avoid too much information. So you'll find some of the topics in GMAT they are tested, but very rarely. You find maybe one question in the entire of a session or the exam section. So you have to know what concepts that you will cover, which concepts you will need to input more of your effort, because if you put more effort or equal effort on all the topics, you'll probably end up giving a lot of your time to unnecessary concepts. So this is why for our students we provide a learning objective statement that guides them on what topics to study, what topics to prioritize, and which topics you should just know how to navigate and not necessarily be a guru in.
You're watching Success with Bob Mwiti Show, presented to you by Upstack America. Upstack America is a consulting company that helps immigrants find amazing higher education and job opportunities in the tech industry in the United States. You can find our programs by going to www.upstackamerica.com. Upstack America, we wake you up to the unlimited potential.
So we go to question approach and prep strategy. So this is another important part of your GMAT prep. So stick to one way of solving particular question types. So you'll find, say if I take a simple example of sets, You can solve sets by algebra, or you can solve sets by the matrix method. So if one of them works for you, every time you encounter a sets question, make sure you use that strategy that you picked. So you do not have to know all the ways of solving a question. You just have to know the most efficient way of solving that question and stick to it for similar questions. And then avoid gimmicks. This applies both to quantitative reasoning, to verbal reasoning, and even data insights. So you'll find there are some shortcuts that are proposed out there that really don't work. So say if you take verbal, for example, you hear someone say you can read one sentence of a paragraph, so the first and the last one, then you'll get the whole picture of that paragraph. So if that was the case, GMAT probably wouldn't have input the middle part of that paragraph. So please avoid shortcuts. Make sure that the strategy that you're using is sane and is right and will lead you to get questions right and know how to solve questions in the proper way. And then practice questions and sources. So you have to decide and know where to get your practice questions. So for example, for verbal, we always recommend that you use the official guide for practice. And then for reading comprehension, to build your comprehension ability. So you go out and find articles, say business articles, science articles, and journals, so that you can build that reading culture. And that way, your comprehension, you will be able to comprehend a passage pretty quickly, as opposed to just doing reading comprehensions over and over and over and over again while your reading is off. Again, as we said, practice makes perfect. So if you continue practicing reading a passage the wrong way, you will perfect reading it the wrong way. And then study missed questions and learn from your mistakes. So this is how you should use practice questions to help you. So as you practice, if you miss a question, do not just let it slide. So go back to the question and ask yourself, why did I miss this question? So if it's a concept you studied, look for, say, careless errors that you did and find ways to alleviate those errors. So find ways that will ensure you do not repeat the same mistakes. And then study mocks done and learn problematic topics. So this is similar to questions. So once you do a mock, go back to the mock and look for topics that are problematic, and then you know where to concentrate on these specific section. So these are some of the things that we guide our students in, especially studying the mocks and helping using the mocks to help you as a learning tool, so to help you better your study. Then lastly, training. So you can either decide to join training or not. So you can either self-study or join training. So self-study in itself is a cheaper option for GMAT prep, because of course, if you join training, you will have to pay. But it does miss some advantages that training has. So training provides a guided study, so it removes the hassle of figuring out the proper strategy and materials. So you go into training and then you have a ready guide. So you are taken step by step on how to study, how to develop your GMAT prep, and also guided on which materials to use depending on your style or your preferences. and then you'll probably have less preparation time overall, because it removes this first part of figuring out what the GMAT is, how it works, what materials to use, what strategies to employ, and so on and so forth. So with these options, you should choose an option depending, of course, on your budget, your time, and preferred mode of study. Because even trainings are different. There are trainings that are more hands-on, and other modes of trainings that are more or less general. So depending on your preferences, you should pick a method that works for you to ensure that you perform the best that you can in your GMAT exam. Okay, so those are a few tips that will help you decide and craft your GMAT preparation strategy. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next class. Bye.